harvesting zucchini, but above all, growing them by transplanting them now in September is still possible. I'll explain how to do it, giving you all the tricks of the trade. Hello farmers, hope you're well. As you know, I'm a supporter of late zucchini cultivation. So that means growing by transplanting zucchinis in September to harvest them until about November, and if you're lucky, even mid-November. But to do that, you have to do it in a particular way. I'll explain how my grandfather always used to say, when you ask too much from nature and act arrogantly with nature, nature gives you little. This is usually the flaw of those who grow zucchini. They ask too much from their zucchini plants. In fact, after about 5 or 6 kilos of zucchini per plant, the plant doesn't produce like it used to. The zucchinis start to get tougher, less flavorful, but most of all, full of seeds. At that point, we need to go and transplant others, and we start right from there. From zucchinis that are now worn out, these are zucchinis that are over fibrous. We're still making them produce a little bit more. If you look, we still have a few zucchinis like these, which are still good, excellent, but it's the end of the cycle. We notice it because the green of the leaves is no longer shiny. These are zucchinis that we transplanted around mid-May, and by the end of June, they were basically done. We're letting the weeds grow for now since we'll cut everything down later. At that moment, around the end of August, we went to plant the new zucchinis that will always be with us outdoors. Much later, here in northern Italy, as I said, until late October. Do you know what helps your autumn zucchinis grow best? Subscribe to the channel and sign up for the newsletter below in the description. There's a link where I guide you each week on creating your own vegetable garden. Assess what's urgent at the time. Zucchini is an excellent plant. These are the zucchinis that are high in fiber. These are the high fiber zucchinis. These are the high fiber ones. These are zucchinis that are high in fiber. These are the zucchinis that are high in fiber. These are the high fiber ones. These are the zucchinis high in fiber. These are high in fiber. These are the zucchinis that are high in fiber. These zucchinis are high in fiber. We risk that in a short time our leaves will start to get filled with fungal attacks, like in this case. So we should also give it a different pruning to let much more air pass through and thus encourage the evaporation of water. We will do some pruning, removing at least all the lower leaves. If you notice, those are always the ones that are sick. We remove these leaves because the more we take them away, the fewer fungi we'll have on our plants, so the health of our plant improves. The harvest also needs to be quick. In fact, we always harvest our zucchinis when they're still small, before they grow bigger. This is important because large zucchini are full of seeds. Every time we let a zucchini grow, we're telling our plant that it can finish its cycle and therefore it can reproduce. That's why zucchinis are much bigger, with lots of seeds inside, so we pick them when they're about 10 centimeters long. As I told you, we can ask the plant, but we're at a critical time. So those who act arrogantly end up harvesting less. But then look, in just a few plants, look at what you can manage to pick. This one, for example, is a slightly more special variety. It tends to produce zucchinis that are a bit fatter. Ideal for making grilled zucchinis because they're much, much sweeter. Being this much brighter green color compared to the dark green zucchinis. And above all, they hold up much better during cooking, especially if our slices are a bit thick. Try them. And here we introduce another aspect. Not all varieties are optimal. What I recommend are two varieties, in particular the President, which are the classic zucchinis with the darker ones. The one I showed you before is a dark green zucchini. And these here, which they call Grayson, are varieties that hold up a bit better. They tolerate low temperatures and swings better. The problem we have today isn't so much the average temperature, but especially temperatures that are either very low or very high. Think about September, from 30 degrees down to 12 degrees. Then let's talk about fertilization. Let's do a good and abundant one before transplanting. I'll list some excellent organic fertilizers in the description. Zucchini doesn't require a lot of fertilization, but it does need rich soil that has already received nutrients. As I mentioned, it's a short cycle, so this zucchini needs all its energy. At the end of the cycle, we will chop up our zucchini to return all the nutrients to the soil. But if I wanted to keep producing zucchinis until... would I need a greenhouse? Careful, before the greenhouse, we're talking about cold greenhouses, so not heated. The step before that you can do with zucchinis in the field. To give them 15 more days and use tessuto non-tessuto sheets, non-woven fabric. These sheets will preserve your zucchinis as much as possible. But they won't work miracles. They'll give you 10, at most 15 more days. The greenhouse, on the other hand, is a climate, a temperate microclimate that allows your zucchinis to grow at their best. As you can see here, on the outermost row, which is also the warmest because the air cycle moves this way, the zucchinis are placed. When we get there, around mid-October, we will close the greenhouse and this production will remain active until about mid-December. After that, it depends on how warm the season is. It's a good technique to have a small greenhouse in your garden, maybe not as big as this one. We are a farm. It's an excellent solution to ensure production. In those times of the year when the temperatures don't help your vegetables, be careful though. When we're talking about a greenhouse, you have to remember that the climate is much more extreme than it seems. In fact, on hot days, when it's 30 degrees outside, it can even reach 40 degrees inside the greenhouse. So you need enough ventilation, so open the side panels. But above all, you need to give plenty of water to the zucchinis if you see that the soil is dry. What treatments can we do to help our zucchinis? We're talking about zucchinis grown in September, so the growing period is very short. After transplanting, we harvest for about 6 weeks. 2, maybe 3 or 4 kilos per plant, which is still a good harvest. Considering we pay almost nothing, the zucchini is just a seedling. And of course, the care required is really minimal, even treatments besides azolite. I wouldn't do anything else. I wouldn't try to fight powdery mildew, which unfortunately is present, but I would just accept it. Zucchini can give us a certain amount for the season, which are different things, of course. With the zucchini we plan to grow, Estate Arrica concludes, we have seen that zucchini can still be grown in September. It can still be transplanted, a very, very fast cycle. We saw the fertilization to do before transplanting. We saw that the treatments are practically almost none. Why do we accept that a zucchini is so much faster? The trash needs to be spread out a bit more to let the air pass through. We saw how to protect it from the first cold with tessuto non-tessuto sheets or how to grow it in a greenhouse. In that case with trash that's much, much tighter and denser. This way you can keep producing until mid-December. This is the way I grow autumn zucchini every year. I invite you to subscribe to the channel to stay updated on all the videos and see how it happens in the field for you too, because we are growing together. And that's exactly why we've activated our free newsletter down below in the description. I just need a few details and then you can sign up for free. Where about every 10 days I'll send you an email detailed about the actions to take that week, which transplants to do, and a series of other really, really useful information. Farmers, see you next time. Bye all.